A bed and breakfast is a small lodging establishment that offers overnight accommodation and breakfast. Bed and breakfasts are often private family homes and typically have between 4 and 11 rooms, with 6 being the average. Bed and breakfast is also used to describe the level of catering included in a hotel's room prices, as opposed to room only, half board, full board. Overview. Generally, guests are accommodated in private bedrooms with private bathrooms, or in a suite of rooms including an ensuite bathroom. Some homes have private bedrooms with a bathroom which is shared with other guests. Breakfast is served in the bedroom, a dining room, or the host's kitchen. B&Bs and guest houses may be operated as either a secondary source of income or a primary occupation. Often the owners themselves prepare the breakfast and clean the rooms, but some bed and breakfasts hire staff for cleaning or cooking. Properties with hired professional management are uncommon but may exist if the same owner operates multiple B&Bs. Some B&Bs operate in a niche market. Floating bed and breakfasts are boats or houseboats which offer B&B accommodation. The CCGS Alexander Henry Museum ship was one example. In some communities, a former lighthouse keeper quarters have been turned into B&B rooms after the light has been automated or decommissioned. International differences. China. In China, expatriates have remodeled traditional structures in quiet, picturesque rural areas and opened a few rustic boutique hotels with minimum amenities. Most patrons are tourists, but they are growing in popularity among the Chinese. Cuba. In Cuba, which opened up to tourism in the 1990s after the financial support of the Soviet Union ended, a form of B&B called casa particular became the main form of accommodation outside the tourist resorts. Hungary. In Hungary, B&B is very popular. Usually as a small family-run hotel, an intimate ambience and a pleasant atmosphere. It provides an affordable alternate for the hotels. In Hungarian, the B&B is called pansio or salo. India. In India, the government is promoting the concept of bed and breakfast. The government is doing this to increase tourism, especially keeping in view the demand for hotels during the 2010 Commonwealth Games in Delhi. They have classified B&B in 2 categories: Gold and Silver B&B. All B&B will be approved by the Ministry of Tourism, who will then categorize it as Gold or Silver based upon the predefined criteria. Enormous growth in metro cities like Delhi, Gurgaon, Pune, Bangalore and Mumbai. People are rushing to these cities in terms to have a respective job, and bed and breakfast is becoming a favorite option. Among them, average B&B service provider are providing these services standard in the premises, like air conditioner or air cooler, free food, free Wi-Fi internet, and premium provider are providing whole bunch of extra services like lift system in the building, no electricity bill for air conditioner and ways usage, 50 Mbit per second to 100 Mbit per second leased internet line for guests, intercom, security with IP cameras and security guard 24*7. Charges for standard B&B is around $100 to $120 each head for a month, and for premium B&B services starts from $180 and above. Ireland. Registered Irish B&Bs are star-rated by Fáilte Ireland, and along with the majority unregistered B&Bs, form the B&B Owners Association Ireland. Generally, B&Bs in Ireland are family-owned and AMP-run, with a small percentage being leased, managed, but still with the personal service expected in this sector. Owners, managers nearly always live on premises. Breakfast can mean a cooked Irish fry or continental-style buffet. Israel. The Israeli B&B is known as izimah all over the country, but especially in northern Israel the zimahs has developed an extensive industry. Settlements belonging to private families and rural settlements are rented for a short period. This industry began to develop in the 1990s, when agriculture became less profitable and many families with farms in community kibbutzim, farms and individual seats decided to try their luck in the business of hospitality. In the last decade, there has been development of bed and breakfasts also in southern Israel in the Negev. Italy. In Italy, regional law regulates B&Bs. There is a national law, Leg 29 Marzo 2001 N. 135, but each region maintains a specific regulation. Each region can adopt different regulations, but they must observe the national law on tourism. Netherlands. Bed and breakfast in the Netherlands literally means what it says, namely, bed with breakfast. In the Netherlands, it is also often referred to as lodgings with breakfast, a guest room, a guest house. Bed and breakfast is a small-scale type of accommodation, which is available to guests for a short stay. Nearly all bed and breakfasts are established in a residential home and are run by the owners of the particular residence. Dutch bed and breakfasts are commonly held in historic monumental houses or farms. There are approximately 5,000 bed and breakfasts in the Netherlands. New Zealand. Bed and breakfasts in New Zealand tend to be more expensive than motels and often feature historic homes and furnished bedrooms at a commensurate price. Pakistan. The trend of B&Bs in Pakistan is quite widespread. Popular resorts like Murree, which attract many tourists from different parts of the country, have a number of such rest houses. The expenses can vary, depending on the quality of facilities. Most bed and breakfast facilities tend to expediently cater to families, given the high level of group tourism, and offer suitable overnight lodging. Romania. While exploring Romania's countryside, smaller cities are traditional villages. Visitors can stay at a bed and breakfast. Bed and breakfast in Romania are rated with daisies from 1 to 3, 3 daisies being the best rating. A bed and breakfast offers clean and inexpensive accommodations as well as the opportunity to learn about the day-to-day life and culture of rural part Romania, especially in Transylvania where B&B is more popular. Visitors will have the chance to try fresh, organic farm products. Spain. Bed and breakfast is a 21st-century phenomenon in Spain. In the past, the equivalent was habitation con derecho a cocina, which means room along with use of the kitchen area. In Spain, bed and breakfast offers are provided by hotels, hostels, apartments, houses and inns. Normally bed and breakfast flats or houses consist of 5 to 7 rooms because they are not heavily regulated. People are free to provide the houses as bed and breakfast to pay for some of the bills. This has resulted in a degeneration of bed and breakfast standards. Sweden. Bed and breakfast was more or less a direct import from the British-style B&B. The B&B isn't evenly spread over the country. Most are in southern province of Skåne near one of the 3 larger sites, Stockholm, Gothenburg and Malmö. Some breakfast hotels and other minor hotels trying to profit from the name also call their accommodation B&B. No laws in Sweden restrict such advertising. The only restriction is from the authority of traffic, who only give permission to put up the bed and breakfast sign by the local road if the owner lives in the same building as the guests. If the proprietor has less than 8 beds, no permissions from the police police office is required to run public accommodations. But fire safety and food safety applies to all new facilities, regardless of the number of beds. In a Swedish B&B, using the kitchen is not allowed for guests. Standard is usually acceptable, but sometimes with ensuite bathroom or sometimes a shared bathroom in the corridor. Most people in Sweden speak and understand English, but in small establishments it often can be tricky to pay with credit card or euro. Swedish bed and breakfast may be found through local or regional tourist organizations at the owner's webpage. United Kingdom B&Bs and guest houses are generally a budget option compared to hotels, although some upmarket B&Bs also exist. There are numerous B&Bs found in seaside towns, the countryside as well as city centers. B&Bs are graded by Visit Britain and other organizations and may be rated on a star system. 3, 4 and 5-star establishments have a higher standard. A majority of B&Bs in the UK have ensuite facilities. United States. The custom of opening one's home to travelers dates back the earliest days of colonial America. Lodging establishments were few and far between in the 18th century, and, apart from a limited number of coaching inns, wayfarers relied on the kindness of strangers to provide a bed for the night. Hotels became more common with the advent of the railroad and later the automobile. Most towns had at least one prominent hotel. During the Great Depression, tourist homes provided an economic advantage to both the traveler and the host. Driving through town on U.S. highways, travelers stopped at houses with signs reading "Tourists are guests," where one could rent a room for the night for approximately $2. While little more than short-stay boarding houses, the rooms brought needed income for the homeowner and saved money for the traveler. A tourist home or guest house represented an intermediate option between inexpensive campgrounds or cabins and costly railway hotels. Non-white travelers could consult the Negro Motorist Green Book, a printed directory, to find lodging at which they would be welcome despite racial segregation and widespread discrimination. After World War II, middle-class Americans began traveling in Europe in large numbers, many experiencing the European-style B&Bs for the first time. Some were inspired to open B&Bs in the U.S. Tourist homeowners updated the properties as B&Bs. The interest in B&Bs coincided with an increasing interest in historic preservation, spurred by the U.S. bicentennial in 1976 and assisted by two crucial pieces of legislation: the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966 and the Tax Reform Act of 1976, which provided tax incentives for the restoration and reuse of historic structures. Through the 1980s and 1990s, B&Bs increased rapidly in numbers and evolved from homestay B&Bs with shared baths and simple furnishings to beautifully renovated, historic mansions with luxurious decor and amenities. Many B&Bs created a historical ambience by adapting historic properties as guest houses decorated with antique furniture. Printed directories listed options in various cities. By the mid-1990s, the Internet made it more affordable for innkeepers to promote the properties worldwide. It provided online reservation software and allowed travelers to view detailed photos, videos, and reviews. B&B and inn owners have been adding amenities such as wireless internet access, free parking, spa services, and nightly wine and cheese hours. To stay competitive with the rest of the lodging industry, larger bed and breakfast inns have expanded to offer wedding services, business conference facilities, and meeting spaces, as well as many other services a large hotel might offer. There are approximately 17,000 B&Bs in the United States. B&Bs are found in all states, in major cities and remote rural areas, occupying everything from modest cottages to opulent mansions, and in restored structures from schools to cabooses to churches. Regulations and laws vary considerably between jurisdictions, both in content and extent and in enforcement. The most common regulations B&Bs must follow pertain to safety. They are usually required by local and national ordinances to have fire resistance, a sufficient fire escape plan in place, and smoke detectors in each guest room. Kitchens and equipment used to serve meals are also often required to be monitored for hygienic operation, but there are significant national and local differences. In Hawaii, it is illegal to open a new bed and breakfast on Oahu as of 1989. The reason for the moratorium is to force homeowners with extra room to rent out their extra space to low-income residents who otherwise cannot afford housing on crowded Oahu. Professional and trade associations. Many inns and bed and breakfasts are members of professional associations. There are international, national, regional, and local associations, all of which provide services to both the members and the traveling public. Many require the members to meet specific standards of quality, while others simply require a lodging establishment to pay dues. These associations also facilitate marketing of the individual B&Bs and provide a stamp of approval that the business in question is reputable. In the United States, the two primary nationwide professional associations are the Professional Association of Innkeepers International and the Association of Independent Hospitality Professionals. While various local governments have regulations and inspect lodging establishments for health and safety issues, membership in a state, provincial, national bed and breakfast association can indicate a higher standard of hospitality. Associations sometimes review the members' properties and tend to have additional standards of care. In the U.S., for example, each state has an innkeeping association that exists to promote the industry and tourism. Within those state associations, many city and regional bed and breakfast associations can be found. Many state, city and regional associations have inspection criteria that often exceed government requirements for safety and cleanliness. In Australia, the industry is represented by the Bed and Breakfast, Farm Stay and Accommodation Australia Limited. In the British Isles, the national approval boards set up by governments are far more stringent than others and standards are expected to be high. In Ireland, there is an association that will only use the National Tourist Board's approved members. Studies. Tourism Queensland study. In January 2003, Tourism Queensland conducted a review of current research to gain a better understanding of the bed and breakfast market. Michigan State University study. According to a study by Michigan State University, according to this study, many bed and breakfast visitors make use of evaluations given by other guests. This system of independent reviews is one of the fastest growing consumer content-oriented sites on the net. ComScore study. Another study suggests that people trust online reviews posted by previous guests. Journal of Travel Research study. A study by the Journal of Travel Research stated, Prince Edward Island study. A 2007 study on Prince Edward Island. Time magazine. According to Time magazine,